Happy Tuesday, it's Run It Back time. I'm your host, Sydney Clark, and we are so excited to recap and discuss all things sports with you once again. The NBA playoffs are heating up, as well as the NHL. It's postseason here in April, and it hasn't disappointed yet so far. We will break down both the East and the West of the NBA playoffs, and Richie will give us updates on all of the NHL playoffs so far. The World Cup is about 100 days away, and that means Emily Baldwin is back with both men and women's national team updates. All this and more on Run It Back. But to start us off, we go to the one and only Jackson Bezdek. It was another week in MLB, and Jackson is ready to run it back once again.
How's it going, everyone? Another week down and another week of baseball games. With so many games to cover, I thought it would be easiest for this week if we go through all of our division leaders to kick off the season. Since the last time we checked in and I was saying how the Rays are dominating everyone, they've won their last 6 games. I mean, this is some unprecedented territory we're in, guys. No team has started out 14-0 at home since the Detroit Wolverines in 1886. I mean, Wander Franco doesn't even use a glove anymore. That's all I got for the Rays. Next up, we have the Minnesota Twins, who sit at 13-10 and hold a 2-game lead in the AL Central. Their offense is kind of pretty bad. Michael A. Taylor is leading them in batting average, only at .250. Byron Buxton hasn't come around yet, but man, their rotation is nice. Everyone is under a 3.33 ERA, highlighted by Sonny Gray, who is currently one of the early season favorites to win the Cy Young with a league-leading .62 ERA. Leading the AL West is not the defending champs, but actually the Texas Rangers at 14-8, and they're actually doing a lot of it without their star shortstop, Corey Seager, who's out with an injury. Marcus Semien and Dallas Garcia are tearing up baseballs. Both of them at OPS is over 830 and have a total of 11 home runs and 49 stakes between them. And of course, DeGrom hasn't been his vintage Cy Young self, but he still has 43 strikeouts to only 3 walks. Off to the NL East, the Atlanta Braves are still holding on to their 1-game lead with a 15-8 record. Ronald Acuna Jr. is ripping baseballs apart, hitting .358 with 12 stolen bases. Matt Olson has 6 home runs and a .933 OPS, and they arguably have the best rotation in baseball, led by the league leader in strikeouts, Spencer Strider. Oh, and Bryce Elder has only given up 3 runs through 22 innings. Atlanta might be one of the most complete teams in the entire league. Holding a 1-game lead in the NL Central, the Pittsburgh Pirates are off to their best start in years at 16-7. I think they thought bringing home Andrew McCutchen would be more of a legacy thing, but he's leading them in on-base percentage at .381. Brian Reynolds has somewhat come back down to earth after his otherworldly start, but he's still hitting almost .300 and just got paid. Their starting pitching is fine, but man, they've got some guys in their pen who've been lights out. Closer David Bednar is 8-8 on save opportunities, allowing only 1 run and 1 walk through 11 innings while striking out 14. And rounding out our lineup today is the NL West leading Arizona Diamondbacks. Although they only hold a half-game lead over the LA Dodgers, I don't think anyone saw this start coming. They have 4 guys in their lineup still hitting over .280 and a true ace on the bump in Zach Gallen. With the Dodgers due to eventually string together some W's, it'll be interesting to see if Arizona is actually legit or if they're simply just overachieving. That's all I've got for you guys this week. Back to you, Sydney.
One of the best times of the year is the NBA playoffs, and this year is holding true to that. The Nuggets, Suns, and Lakers are just 1 game away from advancing to the Western semifinals, while it's anyone's game in the Kings and Warriors series right now. Let's take a look at all the madness and head to Barry to talk about the Western Conference.
Thank you, Sydney. The West has been over the rails this past week. We're actually going to make headway to the Suns and Clippers. Despite the Suns being up 3-1, right now we have to look at the fact that Russell Westbrook these past 3 games has scored over 25 points, with his recent game going for 37, 6, and 4. And has been a wonderkin. You obviously have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, who are currently leading leading scorer undeterred by shooting the less 3-point attempts. And I just found a way to be a terror. Also, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. The absence of Kawhi and Paul George is too much for Westbrook and the Clippers. The games have been close. Tune in for tonight's game at 9 o'clock in Arizona. Now we're going to shift over to the Nuggets versus Timberwolves. The Timberwolves just avoided being swept on Sunday thanks to Anthony Edwards. He drizzled 34 points and came clutch in overtime. These 2 teams also meet tonight. A big question is, can the Timberwolves take Jokic and the Nuggets to a Game 7? We're going to converse to a set of teams with another 3-1 lead. Yes, the 7th seed Los Angeles Lakers are up 3-1 against the 2nd seed Memphis Grizzlies. Lakers went up 3-1, and last night, thanks to LeBron James, game-time layup on Xavier Tillman and Jaren Jackson. James was also the first Laker to have 20-plus points and 20-plus rebounds in a game as a Laker since 2004. In overtime, Lakers took advantage as James put up the dagger and 1 on Dillon Brooks. The next game will be back in Memphis as the Lakers took both games at home. Lastly, we have the Warriors versus Kings. Warrior fans are filled with a lot of vim. Warriors took both games at home despite being down 2-0 before. They also consumed one win without Draymond Green. Stephen Curry is in the works of spoiling a Kings championship run. He's currently averaging 31 points right now. On the other side, Kings fans should be worried as De'Aaron Fox was announced as doubtful heading into Wednesday's game. You can only wish for the best if you're a Kings fan. That wraps up the current picture for the West. We're going to send it to break.
From the East to the West, the playoff madness stays the same. The 76ers are the first team to advance to the Eastern Conference semifinals, with the Celtics, Knicks, and Heat right behind them. Barry filled us in on the West, and now Namdi is here to run it back on the East. Namdi, how's it going?
Thank you, Sydney. Barry gave you the West. Now I'm here to fill you in on the East side of the bracket. Philadelphia has run the tables with the Nets. Ben Simmons, he did the exact opposite of this tweet from a couple years ago, as he watched Mikal Bridges and company get swept by the Sixers, including a 96-88 loss without Joel Embiid Saturday, with B-baller Paul Reed posting a career-high 15 boards in Embiid's absence. The KU alum is nursing a knee sprain, and his timetable to return is uncertain. Not a good thing to hear if you're a Philly fan, unless you trust in a Harden-Maxey backcourt. New York fans have heard a lot of good things recently, though, such as Knicks win. Sunday, they took down the Cavaliers in a 102-93 win in Madison Square Garden. Brunson and Barrett combined for 55 as the Donovan Mitchell Cleveland experience is looking bleak. I pride myself in saying Mitchell is one of the best playoff performers of all time. He only had 11, 5, and 4 the other night. The next matchup is tomorrow night back in the land. Hopefully Mitchell, Mobley, Garland, and the rest of the crew can wake up before it's too late and New York moves on to the semis. Giannis Antetokounmpo has been missing the last few games, and Milwaukee is feeling the heat. Victor Oladipo, he tragically went down towards the end of Game 3, which would later be diagnosed as a torn patellar, so we pray he has a speedy recovery, being one of the most beloved players in the league. Their playoff series will resume tomorrow night. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray made it interesting for the Atlanta Hawks by winning 130-122 Friday night. Young had 32, Murray had 25, but Tatum and the Boston Celtics would win Game 4, forcing a 3-1 lead. This Celtics team has really seen a boost from Marcus Smart playing extremely well this stretch on both sides of the ball and are looking to repeat as winners of the Eastern Conference. We'll see if Atlanta has what it takes to force a Game 6, as Game 5 of the Hawks-Celtics is tonight at 7:30 Eastern. Hey, there's another league who's in full swing of the playoffs right now, and that's the NHL, and who better to give you the rundown than Richie Obaid.
Thanks, Namdi. This year's NBA playoffs haven't disappointed, just like this year's NHL playoffs. So far, 4 out of the 8 matchups have a team leading 3-1, while the other 4 matchups are tied at 2 games apiece. This is just the second time since 2016 that at least one sweep hasn't occurred in the first round. Let's start with the series that are 3-1. The Boston Bruins currently have the advantage over the Florida Panthers through the first 4 games. Left winger Taylor Hall has led the charge out of the gates for the Bees as he leads the team in goals and points so far. The Bruins will look to advance tomorrow in Boston. Next, the Toronto Maple Leafs have taken a commanding 3-1 lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning. What makes the Leafs lead so surprising to most fans is that not only have the Lightning won 2 out of the last 3 Stanley Cups and have been a force to be reckoned with, but they dropped Game 3 and 4 in the series on home ice. Both of those games ended up going to overtime and seeing the Leafs win. Most notably was last night when the Lightning had a 4-1 lead in the third period, but Austin Matthews led the Leafs and fought all the way back and ended up winning the game. The Leafs will look to advance to the second round for the first time since 2004 on Thursday in Toronto. The third 3-1 series is the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. The Canes have looked sharp in the first round, and this is directly correlated to them having a 3-1 lead. Their goaltender Ante Ranta has been practically unbeatable this series, as he's made 107 saves on 117 shots in 4 games. The Canes look to close the series tonight on home ice. Finally, the Las Vegas Golden Knights won again in Winnipeg last night to take a 3-1 lead over the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets started the series looking good as they won Game 1 in Vegas, but since then they've lost 3 in a row and 2 at home. Now they find themselves backs against the ropes against the number 1 team in the West. The Knights have an opportunity to advance on Thursday in Sin City. Now for the matchups that are tied at 2. The defending champion Colorado Avalanche find themselves tied with the first-time playoff Seattle Kraken. The Kraken not only made the series interesting, but they've actually won a game in Colorado, something not a lot of teams can do come playoff time. This young new team is hoping to do the unthinkable by winning 2 more games and beating the Avs in the first round. Game 5 is tomorrow night. The Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild have both traded game wins each time out there. Wild took games 1 and 3, and then the Stars took games 2 and 4. Many thought the Wild would run away with the series after their Game 1 double overtime win in Dallas, but the Stars kept fighting back. Game 5 is tonight in Dallas. Arguably the best series of the playoffs so far is between the Edmonton Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. 3 out of the first 4 games have gone to overtime, leading to 3 thrilling finishes. Just like the Wild and Stars series, these teams have gone back and forth with wins each game out there. The Oilers will look to take a 3-2 lead tonight on home ice. The last series tied at 2 is between the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. What makes it so fascinating is that the Devils started the matchup by losing games 1 and 2 in New Jersey, causing many to think the Rangers are going to sweep them in New York, but this wasn't the case. The New York Rangers would drop games 3 and 4 at home. The home team is 0-4 this series, not something you see too often. The Devils will try Thursday night to be the first team in this series to win at home. Every series so far has been must-watch TV, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Let's send it over to Sydney after the break so she can provide us with some more must-watch TV.
KU softball showed up this weekend at Arocha Park, beating the Texas Tech Raiders and winning their first conference series since 2019 when they defeated Baylor. I don't want to spoil all the fun just yet, so let's run it back with Alex Dagey.
Thanks, Sid. It certainly was an exciting weekend for the Jayhawks softball and baseball teams. We left off with the Air Force baseball rolling into Hogland Ballpark last week, and the Jayhawks ended up sweeping the Falcons in a high-scoring 2-game series. Early in the game, the Jayhawks trailed by 2, but managed to score the next 12 runs. Tuesday night, every Jayhawks starter had both a hit and an RBI. The bats did not stop for Kansas, and they kept tacking on those runs for a final score of 19-4. On to Wednesday's game, Michael Brooks hit his 2 first home runs of the season, and on the mound, Hunter Cachero tied his career high of 6 innings pitched to earn his 2nd win of the season. Kansas topped the Falcons 12-2 in 8 innings to finish out the series and improved to 9-3 at home this season. Moving on to the weekend series, Kansas played number 24 Oklahoma State in the first game of the series. The visitors took the Jayhawks down 15-10. If you watched SportsCenter this weekend, you may have seen the Jayhawks in top 10 plays. That's right, take a look at this diving catch from outfielder Mike Kazuko. This Saturday and Sunday games did not go as planned for KU either. Saturday, the team fell by a final score of 14-3, and Sunday the Jayhawks couldn't avoid the sweep, losing 8-3. Moving on to softball, last week the ladies traveled to Como for the border showdown against Mizzou. The Tigers took down Kansas 4-3 after a quick lead was gained by the Tigers after the first frame, and they just never looked back. The team headed back to Lawrence for a 3-game set with Texas Tech. With the rain delay from Friday, the series started on Saturday and things got off to the wrong foot as KU lost 6-1. On Sunday, Kansas freshman Lizzie Ludwig pitched her first career complete game shutout of the Jayhawks got the win 1-0. Monday, Casey Hamilton started in the circle with Ludwig coming in the fifth to finish the second straight shutout of the weekend as KU won 3-0. This was the Jayhawks' first conference series win since March of 2019, and this series win over the Lady Raiders bumped the ball club back over 500 on the season. This week, baseball is headed to Wichita State for a midweek game Wednesday, and both teams are headed to Norman this weekend. Softball will have that much tougher task, of course, as they will be playing the 42-1, two-time defending national champion Sooners. The first pitch for softball this Friday is at 6, and baseball will be right across the street starting 30 minutes later. Now, from one kind of pitch to another, here's Emily with soccer.
Thanks, Alex. There's been a lot of movement with both the men and women's national teams in the last few weeks, and with the Women's World Cup less than 100 days away, there's a lot more coming. The women are currently ranked number 1 in the world by FIFA and are undefeated so far in 2023 with a 7-0-0 record. Their most recent victory came on April 11th against Ireland, scraping by with the 1-0 win, thanks to defender Elena Cook, who scored her first international goal in the 43rd minute of the game.
And then Alyssa Thompson laying the ball back for Sophia Smith, who put it over the bar. This one's taken short, worked well between Smith and Sanchez initially, but then Ireland able to get it away. Back in from Cook, will it go all the way? The breakthrough comes 2 minutes before.
The team has some downtime in the next couple of months to prepare for the World Cup and will finish up friendly play with the final game against Wales on July 9th before heading down to New Zealand to start its group stage matches, the first of which is against Vietnam on July 21st. Besides Vietnam, the U.S. will take on the Netherlands and Portugal in the group stage. This will be the first time that the Women's World Cup will feature 32 teams, expanding from what was previously a 24-team tournament. It'll start July 20th and finish with the final on August 20th. U.S.'s Mallory Swanson will likely be out for the World Cup due to suffering a torn patella tendon in her left knee on April 8th. She's undergone a successful surgery, but no other announcements on her recovery timeline or return to the pitch have been announced yet. The team's final 23-player roster will be decided in June. As for the 2027 Women's World Cup, the U.S. and Mexico teams announced on April 20th that they have put in a bid to host the 2027 tournament. However, the 2026 Men's World Cup will be played partly in the U.S., and the 2028 Summer Olympics will be held in L.A., so it's highly unlikely that the U.S. will get to host a third major event such as the Women's World Cup in such a short time span. Moving on to the men, the U.S. is currently ranked number 13 in FIFA's latest rankings. The team has a 2-1-2 record so far in 2023, coming off of a 1-1 draw with Mexico on April 19th. But we've got to pause and take a second to just watch this insane sequence from the game last week.
Here come Mexico again with Antuna down the right side. Played back in for De La Rosa. De La Rosa into the path of Carlos Rodriguez! Oh, he had time to pick his spot, and he rattles it off the post. Now Dest racing through the midfield. This is Sonora. Into the path of Jordan Morris. Morris up against Araujo. Played in towards Jesus Ferreira! It's all tied up inside the final 10 minutes.
Jesus Ferreira with a late equalizer. Unfortunately, not enough for a win, but the U.S. comes away with at least a draw. The U.S. will have another opportunity to play Mexico on June 15th, shortly before the start of the Gold Cup. They'll kick off Gold Cup play against Jamaica on June 24th, followed by 2 more group stage games on June 28th and July 2nd. There's plenty of soccer going on right now, and you want to know what else there's plenty of? Baseball. Well, there's actually less of it thanks to the MLB's new pitch clock. To talk more on that, Chad Cushing will be live in studio after the break to fill you in on what changes we've seen in baseball so far this year because of the new pitch clock.
Good morning! Welcome to Slow Drip, everybody!
Major League Baseball in the year 2023 looks a lot different than it did in 2022, largely thanks to the implementation of the pitch clock. For those that aren't up to speed, here's a quick rundown. In order to increase action and decrease game length, Major League Baseball implemented a pitch clock that requires pitchers and hitters to interact in 20 seconds or less each time. So, with 13% of this season complete, let's dive into some trends. First up, the most obvious change has been game length. In 2023, full 9-inning games are completed in 2 hours and 38 minutes, down from 3 hours and 3 minutes last season. In baseball time, 25 minutes is an eternity. For fans, this means more action at all times. Balls in play, movement in the field, tempo of pitching, everything is sped up, but not in a way that degrades the quality of the game, rather just the elimination of dead time. Speaking of game on the field, offense has ruled 2023. To date, the average team is scoring 4.57 runs per game, up from 4.28 last year. Now, you may say, this is a small sample size, that number will come back down to average, right? Actually, it's the opposite effect. Historically, scoring in the first month of the year is lower than the season average. For example, last year teams averaged 4.03 runs per game in the first month. So this means that means we're in store for even more offense going forward. Runs mean action, and action is good. A big component of the increase in action has been the revival of the stolen base. The art of swiping bags is almost at extinction, but thanks to these new rules, stealing is back. Along with the pitch clock, there is a new rule that limits pickoffs per plate appearance to 2, another change catered to speeding up the game. In 2023, we are seeing 1.32 steals per game, up from 1.02 last year. 81% of steal attempts are successful this year, up from the decade average around 75%. So, in conclusion, a new era of baseball is upon us. Be mindful when you choose to get a dog and a beer, because you might be missing the deciding play. Speaking of top plays, Brock, what's up?
Great insights, Chad. It is time for top plays, and we do have some highlights from the Diamond in our list. Without any further ado, let's get it started with play number 5. We'll start with last night's matchup between the Red Sox and Orioles to check out this sliding catch from Alex Verdugo. Verdugo starts off our top plays, but the Red Sox lose to the red-hot Orioles 5-4. To the NBA playoffs, we go for play number 4. The high-flying Ja Morant throws one down on Rui Hachimura with his left hand to beat the buzzer at the end of the third. But the Grizzlies are in big trouble as they drop game 4 and go down 3-1 in the series versus the Lakers. Making its first appearance in our top plays this year is the National Lacrosse League. Look at this between-the-legs goal from the Buffalo Bandits' Chase Frazier. Frazier, showing a little flash, lands him at the 3 spot in our list this week. Back to the Diamond for play number 2. White Sox taking on the Blue Jays in Toronto. Matt Chapman smokes this one out to center field, but Luis Robert leaps up and robs a home run from Chapman. A phenomenal catch for Robert, but the Red Sox drop this one to the Blue Jays 5-2. Our top play of the week might be the catch of the year for Major League Baseball. Wander Franco covers a ton of ground and then makes the barehanded grab in foul territory for the out. At the end of the year, this catch will make all the highlight reels for the season, and for that reason, it is our top spot this week. Well, there you have it, folks. Those have been our top plays of the week. Let's see what Sydney has picked out for her best moment in sports.
Brock, that was an insane top play of the week. But for my good moment of the week, there isn't an age limit to chasing your dreams, and that's exactly what our feel-good moment of the week shows us. As 33-year-old Drew Maggi, who never gave up on his dream, has finally got the long-awaited call to join the big leagues. From the call to the moment he stepped into the Pittsburgh locker room, the emotions were high for Maggi. Let's take a look.
How you doing? I'm great, man. Congratulations, man. This is awesome. I'm so happy for you. This is so sick. Dude, I can't believe it. I'm proud of you, man. Never give up on your dream, man. This is awesome. Good. Welcome. Go get settled, man. Yeah. Very cool. It's good to see you. You look nice, man.
I try to dress up. Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you. We will see you all next week, but don't worry, there are other sports shows you can tune in throughout the week right here on KU Media Crossroads. Friday morning, you can tune into Good Morning KU Sports with Playmakers to follow at noon and On the Clock right here at 1 p.m. We'll see you all next time. Have a great week.